Hi, everyone. My name is Paige Nielsen, and I am the Youth Engagement Coordinator for Community in Crisis. I'm here with Dr. Athanasiou, and we are very excited to be giving you this vaping presentation for National Prevention Day. We hope that you learn a lot, and let's get started. So, being eighth graders, you guys are in a very exciting time in your life. You're headed off to high school next year, which is going to present new challenges and decisions that you're going to have to make. One of them being, if you want to start using substances or not. So, we're here to just kind of give you the current facts and information on what vaping is and how it might affect your life. So, I am curious to know how many of you have seen a device like this. These are vaping devices. And as you can see, they've kind of changed through the years. So in the beginning, they looked like cigarettes, but once they were not selling, they kind of changed the look and feel of them to be more accessible and more fun and
Like
interesting
appealing
looking. Yeah, more
for
appealing
kids.
for kids. So they've changed. There's been an evolution of them, and they are selling now with the new model. So why are teens vaping? I think that really comes down to, the individual person, but I would say they think it makes them look cool, they think they're fun, maybe they'll gain new friends from doing so, but the choice is always yours. The choice to vape or not vape is still down to you. And as you can see, just like the vaping devices that I showed you a few slides back, the packaging is really targeted towards you. They make it look like candy or, something that's really appealing to someone your age because they want you to buy it. But we hope that you won't fall for that.
They originally said this was for adult smokers who are trying to quit smoking, and these are clearly not products that are targeting adult smokers. They're going after kids.
Yes. So we want to make sure that you're informed that they're trying to get your money and they want you to buy these packages. As I said, you are smarter than they think. The choice is up to you whether or not you want to vape and whether or not you want to spend your money on these devices. So we want to make sure that you have all of the facts so that you can make the decision for yourself. And you are smarter than they think. You aren't going to fall for the packaging and the fun flavors.
So what's the big deal? These have been around for 10 years, but it's just been the last couple of years that we've seen a lot of e-cigarettes, jewels, vaping devices. I'm going to use sort of all those different names interchangeably. Puff bars, Soren, there's a lot of different manufacturers. And the big deal, there's actually like two big things that you need to keep in mind when you're considering, is vaping for you. One of those is that there's nicotine in these e-liquids that are vaped, and not just nicotine, but a ton of nicotine is packed into these products. So Juul stated themselves that one Juul pod, which is about the size of like your thumbnail, equals one to two packs of cigarettes. Juul says one pack of cigarettes, so 20 cigarettes worth of nicotine in a single Juul pod. And it's really important to know at the beginning, a couple years ago, a lot of high schoolers didn't know that what they were vaping had nicotine in it. They thought it was just sort of like a flavored vapor, like flavored steam sort of that they were inhaling. But there is nicotine in over 95, it was 99% of the products. There's nicotine in most of these products that are out there. So if we look at the Juul starter kit, that used to come with 4 different flavors, 4 pods. And I'm talking about Juul because that was the most popular device being used in high schools over the last couple of years. So they're not allowed to sell flavors anymore because they were going after kids with those flavors, but they still have 4 Juul pods in a starter kit. And if we, sort of think back, okay, 1 Juul pod is equal to 20 cigarettes. We have 20, 40, 60, 80 cigarettes worth of nicotine here in a Juul starter kit. So something that's interesting to know is the big tobacco companies that make cigarettes, a lot of them own cigarette companies, but also e-cigarette companies or vape companies. They own shares or they own the companies outright. They don't care if you're vaping or if you're smoking or going back and forth. They're going to get their money either way. They did studies because they wanted to know how many cigarettes do we have to get into people to get them addicted to our product, to have them buying our product and be lifetime customers. And so those studies show them that 100 cigarettes can lead to addiction. So if you look at the Juul starter kit, it does not take long at all for somebody to establish an addiction. It's really
Scary.
It's incredible. So one of the things that's interesting is if we're talking about the teen brain versus an adult brain, your brains learn a lot more quickly than an adult brain, which is really cool for learning things like a new language or a new skill, like you want to play guitar, you want to master a sport. But it also means that your brains are more prone to developing addiction more quickly. Your brains develop from the back forwards in that yellow part on the brain here. The prefrontal cortex doesn't finish developing until you're 20 to 25 years old. That's why everything is like it's 21 for a reason. Alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes and e-cigarettes, vapes, those are all 21 and up because of that reason.
Right.
And one of the ways that your brain learns things is through a dopamine reward system. And nicotine has a huge dopamine payoff in the brain. So your brain gets flooded with this sort of feel-good chemical. And it causes a release of dopamine that's a lot greater than the dopamine that you get from other things that normally make you happy and just like light you up in life.
Right. Hanging out with your friends, going on a walk with your dog, playing sports, music. So what are you passionate about? Are you passionate about, like we just said, sports? You might not even know what your passions are yet, but as much as your brain can learn to love nicotine, it can also learn to fall out of love with all of those things that were just mentioned.
Yeah, nicotine can become the most important thing in your life, or marijuana, or alcohol.
It's true. So we have a phrase that we call "What's your why?" And what's your why? That could be, like we said, sports, hanging out with friends, music, and we don't want you to fall out of love with those things because of vaping and because of nicotine. And you need to give yourself time to discover what you do love. And we don't want nicotine to get in the way of that. Spend time experimenting in different ways, different clubs, different sports, new friends, instead of experimenting with drugs. Give your brain the time to develop what it wants to discover, right?
Yeah, a lot of kids don't really find what it is that really lights them up until maybe even college.
It might take some time.
Yeah, high school is a great time to sort of take risks and try out for clubs or productions, or
find out who you are.
Take those classes that you're like, like I don't know anything about that. Like, go try things.
Right. So like we said, give yourself and your brain the time to develop so you can find what motivates you. Because, you're, like we said, you're going from middle school to high school. That's such a big change in your life. And you need to give yourself time to discover what it is that you love without letting anything get in the way of it.
Yeah, nicotine can totally sabotage that.
Yeah.
So because we're in a state that just legalized marijuana, I want to touch on that a little bit. So this little guy cracks me up every time. It's really important to know that some kids progress to vaping of marijuana, like after starting with just the nicotine products. And the CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control, who's been in charge of all the COVID stuff, they sort of put out health guidelines to keep us safe. And they've said teens should not vape. And that's sort of across the board because of, the brain's still developing thing. But they said it's especially important that people do not vape marijuana. Over like a year and a half ago, there was a huge outbreak with a lot of people ending up, young people and teens and like younger adults, ending up in the hospital. And these are people that never had any pre-existing conditions, but they ended up on ventilators. Some of these kids had double lung transplants because the vaping of marijuana was like the main culprit in a lot of the more serious cases. Vaping had caused such significant damage to their lungs that they could no longer exchange gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. So marijuana is especially something to avoid vaping.
Right.
And one other aspect of marijuana, and again, I'm bringing this up because you're headed off into high school, and our world is about to sort of become inundated with marijuana products and stuff all around us. So again, this is a decision you're going to have to be making, and marijuana can be vaped. So we want to make sure that we're discussing that in the course of this talk. When I was younger, many decades ago in high school, marijuana wasn't thought to be very addictive. It's been around for a while now. They've studied it a lot, and we know that that 1 in 6 teens who start vaping like regularly when they're younger will develop a lifelong addiction, and it may be to marijuana, or it may involve some other type of drug, but 1 in 6. So that's like sitting watching the King Dakar roller coaster like come and go while you're waiting your turn in line. If you were standing in that line for an hour and the roller coaster came and went, and every time it left with 12 people, if 2 of those kids flew out as it was going around the track, like, would you get on that ride? Like that's a chance I would not take. I wouldn't put my kid on that ride. So that's just sort of a visual to think about this. Like if you're thinking about using marijuana, it's a 1 in 6 chance that you could really set yourself up for a lifetime of addiction.
Right.
So marijuana is definitely addictive.
Right. And like we said, we know that you guys are going to be presented with these choices and the decision is yours. We just want to make sure we're giving you all of the facts that you have to make the most concise decision for yourself.
So we've talked a little bit about the fact that nicotine can be in vapes, and in some cases marijuana. And if somebody hands you a vape in a bathroom, you don't necessarily know what's in there. Even if it is a jewel, it could have marijuana in there. Just putting that out there. So we had a vaping table display we've taken to a bunch of different events, so for like wellness fairs for students and educational things for parents, so they could see all the different devices and we could talk about things. And one young lady came up, she was like in her early 20s, and she's like, oh, like I sort of know about these. I vape, but I vape something that doesn't have nicotine in it. So she had sort of looked into it and made sure she got something that on the package said no nicotine. So we talked a little bit more with her and explained that aside from nicotine, there can be other things in these products that are really concerning. So we were all sort of led to believe, like, what did you think when you first heard about vapes and that they were like a safe alternative to smoking? What did you think it was?
I thought when I first heard that it was going to be something that could help someone quit cigarettes, but it turns out that's really not the case.
Yeah. So, but what did you think people were inhaling? Did you think it was harmful, or do you think it was safe?
I really had no idea, and that's the point. We don't know what we're putting in our body when we decide to smoke these vapes.
So initially, a lot of parents were actually buying vapes for kids. When I went into sort of check into like smoke shops and vape shops, they're like, oh, are you here to buy something for your kids? I'm like, no. But a lot of parents were buying these for their kids thinking, oh, it's just something like safe that they can be doing that makes them feel adult. So we were sort of led to believe that this was like inhaling a vapor, like a flavored vapor, like taking a steaming teapot, or like this, think of steam in a hot shower. If you heat up a liquid and it becomes a gas, you've created a vapor. No big deal with water. But in the case of vapes and the e-liquids that get heated up, they're heated up and they become a gas, but they have all these little particles suspended in them. And that is not a vapor, that's an aerosol. It's like hairspray, it's like spray paint. So it's like putting hairspray or spray paint into the most sensitive parts of your lungs. And some of the particles that are in there, some are heavy metals like lead, cadmium, nickel, things you'd find in battery acid. Some of those metal bits flake off of the devices that are used to vape because they're made of metal. They found things like benzenes, which give gasoline, that really, like noxious smell that makes you feel really sick if you're around it too long.
Right.
Benzenes, we know, cause cancer. Formaldehyde is something that's used to embalm dead bodies and preserve body parts and things for biology classes. Like, very toxic, definitely causes cancer. Arsenic is something that is used to kill rats and control rodents. Those are just a couple of things that they have found in either the e-liquids themselves, or they found in the aerosol after things are superheated and inhaled. So it's just really important to understand, even if you found a product that is like CBD for vaping, or vitamins or essential oils, even if it says there's no nicotine in here, there are a lot of other things in there that can be problematic, that can really cause serious health consequences.
Right. So this is the time in your life when you're going to have the opportunity to be a little bit more independent. What could you say that where
You're
are they
going to
going in
be
high school?
driving. Yeah. You're going to like hang out with friends, like on your own, like your parents are taking you to play dates and things like when you were little.
Yeah.
It's just all this independence, all this freedom.
And you don't want to give that up for a little device.
Yeah, you would, if you start vaping or using marijuana, like you hand over that control of your time, your life, your money to that little device, to that substance.
It's true. You're giving away your time, you're giving away your money. So instead, make a promise to yourself, put your passions above nicotine, put your sports teams, your academics, all of your responsibility that you're now going to have, your newfound freedom, put that above nicotine and vaping.
Yeah, give your brain the chance to fully develop.
Right.
And if you don't know what your passions are,
give your brain some time to find out what they are. So Incorruptible Us, you can go on their page on Instagram and you can learn more information about what we've been talking about today. That'll be helpful for you.
And if you've already started vaping, or someone is vaping and they want to quit, because of what we talked about earlier, it's really easy for you to become nicotine dependent. So to become addicted to nicotine, the devices were designed to make that happen. So if it seems like it's hard to quit, that's because it is. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of resources that can make it a lot easier to quit. When adult smokers try and quit, only 7% of them are successful without getting some help. So smokefree.gov is a website that has great information about the process and helping you understand what it's going to be like. There are withdrawal symptoms to deal with and cravings that will come up. And it's really helpful to know if those are just for the withdrawal symptoms are just for a couple of weeks, or the cravings just last a couple of minutes. And if you know what's going to happen and how to handle it, you have a plan to handle it, you're going to be a lot more successful. And you can text Ditch Jewel to 88709 and get information, like a tip or two every day, anonymously. All these are anonymous. Yeah. You don't have to let your parents know. They don't ask your name or anything. And there's also a Quit Start app that'll sort of like walk you through making a quit plan and all that kind of stuff. And if you still need information and still need help, you can call us at Community in Crisis and we can walk you through other resources. So that's true. Yeah.
It's okay to need help.
Yeah.
And it's okay to ask for help if you need it. Thank you guys so much for listening to us. I know that was a lot of information that we threw at you, but important information nonetheless. We hope if you take anything away from this, it's just that high school is a new chapter in your life and one where you're going to have to make a lot of choices. Mm-hmm. And we just want to make sure you have all the information that you need to make the smart choices.
Yeah, it's just a great time in your life. So congratulations on surviving middle school. Have fun in high school, take good risks, and experiment with what it is you are going to love doing later in life. So good luck.
Yes,
have
best
fun.
of luck.